Shalom friends, Larry Stam here. So glad you are joining us for this brief teaching. In this video, I want to talk to you about a supposition that you can pose to someone in your sphere of influence with whom you are trying to share the gospel message. In short, I'm talking about sharing a what-if statement with somebody. Perhaps you've had a chance to share the gospel with somebody. They're not really responding positively, somebody that you have regular touch points with. Here is a simple question that you can pose to them. A question that's based not on proclaiming the truth, but supposing a truth. And it goes something along these lines. You can ask somebody and you can share with somebody in this way. We're talking specifically about the resurrection now. You can share with somebody you're wanting to communicate the gospel with, and you can say something along these lines. Now, I know that you don't believe in Jesus, you don't believe he died and rose again from the dead on the third day, but just on its face, I want to ask you a question. What if a man actually rose again from the dead, conquering the power of the grave? What if that actually happened? And so this is a suppositional statement. You're supposing something is true. And oftentimes there is associated often this baggage with Jesus Christ and the church and Christianity. It all gets muddled. But on its face, I have asked many people in personal testimony, in my sphere of influence, witnessing along the way. I've asked people in my years doing street evangelism, and I posed that question. I said, just on its face, I'm not saying that you believe this. I'm just saying on its face, do you think that's a good thing if somebody actually rose from the dead, conquering the grave? And you know what? I have never, ever had anybody say, well, that's a terrible idea that somebody could actually rise from the dead and conquer the grave. No. On its face, it's a good idea. And I've had people, after they get through the clutter of all the baggage and obstacles they have in their mind, they have to admit, if we could conquer the grave, that would be a good thing. If somebody actually rose from the dead, conquering the power of the grave, that would be a good thing. And so if they're willing to admit that on its face, that's a good idea that somebody conquers death. That could be good for humanity. That could be good for mankind. Then you can pose the more direct question and challenge them. Well, I appreciate your honesty because I agree. I think that's not only a good thing, I think that's a phenomenal thing beyond words. But then you can pose a question and follow up and say, have you ever considered the historicity and veracity of the resurrection of Jesus on your own to determine for yourself if it's true? Not what so-and-so said or what this magazine said or what this Wizard of Smart said, but have you ever actually explored and discovered for yourself whether it was actually true? Simply challenge them. Look, if they say no, then you could say, well, would you be willing to? Because it could make a huge difference in your life, don't you think? And then as you share the gospel with them, you can encourage them. If they won't consider it, well, you can just continue to love on them and pray for them and declare the gospel to them. But if they say yes, there's a variety of various resources that you can share with them. Obviously, they should be reading the New Testament for themselves if they've never read the account of Jesus in the Gospels. Certainly read the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 15, the resurrection chapter, if you will. There are a lot of great books on the resurrection. The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, or The Case for Easter, I should say, by Lee Strobel. Josh McDowell wrote a book called The Resurrection Factor. That's also an excellent resource. If you want some other resources, you certainly can hit me up at our Facebook page. I can point you to some other good resources. But the resurrection of Jesus is the historical fact upon which the Christian faith rests or falls. And so when talking with people, sometimes we just need to distill the gospel to its basic if you will. Is it a good thing on its face that somebody conquers the grave and actually rises from the dead? Is that good? And again, in my years, I've never had somebody say that's a terrible idea. I've had people have to admit, after they think it through, on its face, apart from everything else, on its face, that's a good idea that somebody could actually conquer the grave and rise from the dead. And then the follow-up is, well, have you ever considered for yourself the veracity and historicity of the resurrection of Jesus? Because that is the historical fact upon the Christian faith rests or falls. And if he actually rose from the dead, Christianity is true, and we should put our trust in him who has conquered the grave, who paid the penalty for our sins, and rose again on the third day, conquering the power of both sin and death. Friends, I hope this has been an encouragement to you. If you like the video, share this video with others. The What If video. And if you've not done so already, I want to encourage you to like our Larry Stam Ministries Facebook page. And until next time, friends, the Lord richly bless you and keep you. Shalom.